Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Charlotte Major here on the Bravo stream. If you were enjoying the game, you were just watching. Quick reminder that that is still live over on our Alpha stream if you'd like to head over there and see the continuation of that. But now, here on our Bravo stream, it is time to move into one of our final matches of the day. We've got Chiefs getting ready to go up against BDS as Chiefs struggle to fight for survival here at what could be the bitter end of their major run if things don't turn around for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite hard fought from them, including their matchup against BDS previously, where they lost 7-5 on Oregon. But we're back with both of these teams to see who can win it out in the second round of this round robin. Should be an interesting matchup, as obviously the Chiefs did give them a run for their money the last time around. But as you and I were breaking it down before this game, John, you were touching on the fact of it just seemed like nobody really had a defense to stand on for that game.
Yeah, both teams with fairly lackluster stats on the defensive side there, with the majority of the impact seemingly coming from the attacking side on either team. What was interesting to note, though, looking at the stats from the matchup yesterday where they managed to go over towards Oregon, was the fact that Chiefs had quite an edge when it came to the entry game, or at least the opening kill at minimum there. With a seven rounds, they got the opening kill. Only 4 rounds was picked up by BDS. But despite that, the conversion ratio just really wasn't there, as you're going to be able to see that they really struggled to be able to actually convert those frags into something winnable later on into the round. So that's hopefully an issue that they were able to look at and kind of clean things up, making sure they're not getting constantly refragged by the members of BDS and being put immediately into a disadvantaged position, despite being the one to pick up that opening kill.
Yeah, absolutely. And also for Chiefs' sake, I mean, they did a very good job of taking the fight to Team BDS. You know, no one getting too far gone inside of the kill department, staying pretty neck and neck, although, you know, Renshiro having quite the good game, a 1.25 with a 12-8. KD spread. So, speaking of which, here's BDS on your guys' screen with the man, the myth, the legend, Shaiko at the very center there. BDS, team from France that tried to have some major success at SI 2022, but due to some unfortunate circumstances, did not have everything put together for their group stage, but they're here now to try and rectify that and take the Charlotte Major.
So I like what we've been seeing over this team for the past few years now. There was always this kind of hype behind it, as it's just really like the Shaiko show for a lot of the earlier times we saw this team, going back to like SI 2020 even, but they've evolved into a much more complicated team since then, with everybody finding massive contributions in their own rights throughout their play style and making it obviously a much more team-focused affair. This event, one that they're certainly going to try and make an impact upon, as Stokes was mentioning, after the unfortunate run at the recent SI. So we'll have to see if this is going to be an event that will treat them well, as still trying to push their own way through this group, of course, and get themselves into the playoffs. It's been a very close event so far. So many great storylines building into it, and BDS, along with the Chiefs, is certainly one of them as they try to fight for more APAC representation here in the finals. We do have our map veto ready to see where this is going to come down towards. Like we said, when these two teams played yesterday, it ended up going down towards Oregon, so very much your quintessential siege style of map. We will see if it is going to go the same direction today, or if maybe the bands will fall in a different direction. Either way, Chiefs start us off with an elimination of Cafe. BDS go for Chalet, as well as Skyscraper, with Chiefs taking out Clubhouse in the midst of that. Oregon is next up to be removed, so there goes the matchup from yesterday. Gone Villa. Border also knocked out relatively quickly, which just leaves us with a few left.
Ooh.
Theme Park and Bank was the final choice for BDS. Theme Park still a bit of a wild map for some teams, fairly unpredictable, especially when it comes to the early and mid-round dealing with that roam game. So they're going to go to Bank instead, where things are probably a little bit easier to control from an attacker's perspective.
No, absolutely. And in fact, I think this plays into what we saw from them yesterday on Oregon. It's going to be all about who is more successful on defense and who can get one over on that offensive squad. And, you know, it's really going to come down to what we see inside of these operator bands as well. That's going to have a huge part to do with how Bank is going to play out. And fortunately enough, John, we are not far from getting into this map. We've got the lobby loaded, and we are ready to get on with it. Chiefs versus BDS here on Bank.
So let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if the Chiefs can finally pick up some points for themselves here, or if BDS is going to be one to try and claim some of their own. Rocketing forward, trying to get that top position in the group here, so they will end up in a better position in our bracket once we move into our playoff stage come Friday. BDS has our first and final ban, so they'll knock out the initial attacker here, as well as the last defender. First choice coming up for them relatively quickly. honestly, not expecting any huge surprises here, considering we are going to be on Bank, and that may be a surprise to some, but it makes perfect sense considering the relative increase in Nox play recently there, knocking it out, especially again with the roam presence that can be noted by Nox if she's able to insert herself secretly into the building. Just a little bit too much to deal with. The follow-up from Chiefs is quite interesting, though, to knock out Montaigne, but to be fair, we have been seeing a lot of Montaigne play inside of Europe, so also making perfect sense here.
Yeah, especially with BDS and Renshiro. I'm remembering this correctly off the top of my head here. A very, very big hallmark operator for this team. Allows you to pressure a lot of things you wouldn't necessarily be able to in the same way with any other op. So they're going to take that off the field. Malusi also gone, and Mira to wrap that up with a bow. And now we can get into the nitty-gritty. The fun stuff here starts now in round one for Bank. We're going to have the Chiefs on the offensive side. BDS starting us off on defense. If they can make a strong stand here, they could end it in the first half.
Absolutely the case. I think the ban towards the Malusi is quite interesting too. Not an operator we see getting knocked out all that often. Her utility quite prolific inside of most teams' playstyle for a lot of maps as well, but for the most part, her utility is just kind of manageable in most circumstances, so teams never really go for the outright ban on her. But Chiefs, seemingly a different strategy being deployed by them. This will open up some much more aggressive strategies too, as those Banshees obviously will be slowing you down, will stop things like site rushes here, so we'll have to see what they can do now with her being knocked off the board, as they're also getting the initial attacker start here, so they will immediately be of benefit to banning her out.
Absolutely the case, my friend, and also past that, just with these bans coming through, I mean, the offensive side is definitely won out in this regard. The defense a little bit more neutered in a certain way, as the Chiefs will have access to every hard breach as well as Thatcher across the board, so should be fairly easy for them to get access to anything that they see fit. It just really is, what does BDS have to say about it? As for the Chiefs, they're going to be switching off of Thatcher pretty early here. Ethan was thinking about it initially, but now on over to the Flores here. Just give us a moment, folks. We will be back with you momentarily here. We're just trying to get our host reconnected. Oh, actually, we had a sound issue. Apologies there. But either way, we're going to get the sound bug all patched up, and then we will be back into action here momentarily.
Yep, thankfully we do have all teams here at the location, guys, so this should be a pretty quick fix. I just need to figure out who the player that does have the issue and resolve it fairly quickly, and then we should be able to rehost our lobby and restart things with relative ease here. But no surprises, at least, coming off of those initial picks. Not that you could really throw them, because most of the surprises we might have gotten, such as like a Nook pick and whatnot, have been banned out here. So not really leaving a whole lot of room for that, especially not on the first round either. So not a whole lot for us to break down, unfortunately, in terms of what we were seeing inside of that prep phase, but it will more than likely echo itself to be relatively the same once we get BDS back on that site defense.
Yes, indeed. And, well, at least past that, we do have some interesting bans, so we can kind of talk about how Bank could be affected. It's really going to be down to the early clear here and kind of that timing in between the mid-round. You know, that 2 minute to like 1 minute mark where things are going to be a lot more accessible to the offensive side. You're going to be able to use things like Thatcher as well as any hard breach that you see fit, which is amazing when it comes to Bank, John. Especially for that top floor, you can get so many angles around E3 or the top elevator hallway. We usually see that coming through lobby, and you can get that with somebody like Ace or Habana. We see Habana banned out all of the damn time on this map because she is so good at getting those very hard to reach walls, as well as she's the queen of hatches. Has so much utility to try and throw down on those things, and you know, on other maps like Clubhouse or something like that, she's so unbelievably strong because of that amount of utility, because when anybody tries to counter her out with impacts, she just lays down more Skyros pellets.
Is going to be a decent amount of pressure on the extended game from our defensive team too here, especially with Montaigne being banned out. Those players will have a lot of additional freedom to roam around and waste that additional time, so they're not going to have to worry about a massive wall being thrown at them that they really can't accurately contest against unless they have a Nitro cell, which you're not really going to be expecting players in that role to necessarily be carrying that in. So having a lot more straightforward fights and a lot more fights you can realistically win will make those players a bit more of a dangerous aspect here on the defensive side, just for BDS, of course. We are working on getting ourselves back in game, guys, so assuming there is no further issues, once we are back in the round and we've confirmed that the issue is fixed, we'll be heading back in game to show you guys that as well here. Getting closer to game time, as once again, BDS locking in pretty much the same thing. Notable operators that are coming into this round is going to be mainly the Goyo, because they do need some method to slow them down now that the Malusi's been banned out, and that's probably what they're leaning towards in order to do that. The Warden, of course, more likely play around the staircase, but can also be useful in the event that we see a flash dump order to get Chiefs into the site. And then aside from that, an expected amount of utility here, with Lems being a bit of an insurance policy there with the yokai drones too.
We haven't seen the most amount of blue stairs play in recent history. It's definitely happened, but it's not as prominent as it once was. It used to be every single team playing blue stairs with a deployable shield, some ADSs, and somebody like Ward in there to try and hold things down for an extended period of time and delay. But as of now, BDS doesn't seem to be the strategy for them. Instead, it might be an extended hold here. They're going to reinforce some things around open area, as to be expected. Some more panels going downstairs, but also an extended hold all the way to the top floor. Don't believe they brought any reinforcements up there, but Shaiko will at least be around the space. Don't necessarily know what he was getting done up there, because he ran up there for definitely a reason, but more than likely just going to be a little secret for us here a little while. Potentially something we could find out, but, well, either way.
To see if there is one of the canisters positioned up there if he was deploying another piece of utility. Doesn't look like it, so we'll follow on that a little bit later on. But the Chiefs will start their harassment from the Northside Repel, interestingly enough here. Worthy, most notably trying to get himself access over towards the CEO side to see if there's going to be any roaming presence for BDS here. Won't be necessarily the case. As you guys can see, it is all clear up on the second floor. Very minimal extensions being played out by BDS. They're focusing entirely on their basement play, choosing to do this horizontally for the most part.
Yeah, I think this is really the only thing that I can see as of right now that they could have potentially had done, and that would be Shaiko just burning one of the Jackal charges, which, I mean, is fairly easy, and actually gets caught up by the Echo there for a Lems. They're going to scan again. I believe this one is actually going to be Shaiko. So both of them recognize that they are downstairs. Pretty smart to add some more feet around where they're not going to necessarily get a lot of info out of it. So another one done there. Now for the Chiefs, though, as they've been able to clear out this top floor, they have to transition it into this mid-take and start getting rid of some of these hatches. BDS have turtled up and do not feel like poking their head out just yet.
We're going to see the cannon opener used to get access to the server hatch here, putting that additional pressure onto the members of BDS. You're already seeing Chiefs get full control of server following that up. They're just going to wrap their way in here and quickly look to take care of some of these drones. You're going to see the yokai actually nearly getting taken out by one of Flores' explosive drones. Will not end up happening, however, and he'll be forced back. Able to save that one. Another Flores drone actually getting sniped out here too as they try to push it a little bit further to deal with some of this extended presence of deployable shields deeper inside of lockers, but no dice this time. They will have to use another one here if there's any left to get it done. But oh my goodness, bouncing with the double. Nearly lines up a third headshot as well here, but Rafal is able to finally get the trade either way. Good entry to start things off from the Chiefs, but where's the rest of this follow-up going to come in from now? As BDS will be given a lot of time to re-brace themselves, even though they'll be down a player. Here's the first plant attempt as they work their way in from server. The Goyo canister blows up and prevents that. Not a whole lot of damage going on in Digital, so he is going to be able to hop back up. But look at all of this mitigation. The Toxic Babes now coming out, and they can be chained together pretty much ad infinitum at this point and leave only about a 10-second window to plant if he chains them back to back to back. And it's looking like that's going to be the case. Another one moving in. He seems to be aware of the fact that this could be happening. Boydie, rather. He's going to try and fire in from up on top, but Chiefs have not found that window of opportunity yet. There we go, another Toxic Bay being thrown in, just wasting out the time. Chiefs, you need to force the issue through that hatch or somewhere else. You're not going to have enough time to wait out all of this utility. This is not going to work, but they're still committing to it anyway. That third Toxic Bay should be coming in just a second, and actually, no, finally out of him. He can commit himself to this plan. I miscounted as we see Ethan going in for the count, but no! It is not going to be enough as the timer runs out and our planter goes down. BDS managed to take control of round number 1 in a very close affair.
Oh no. The top player, Johnny, was holding the other end. He was holding the door instead of the rotation hole, and the smoke gets to sneak through onto the office table. Actually end up killing the Chiefs member planting. BDS practically stealing that one away. They had barely enough time to stave off all of that utility down to the wire, and that means that if anything goes wrong at all, it's a BDS round, and that's exactly what we get. They're able to finally get things slowed up enough to where the Chiefs can't just dust all of them after a wild swing from our friend Pouncin earlier on as the Jackal at PDW, making mincemeat of 2 BDS members before he was taken down.
Great entry from Bounce, and unfortunately the follow-up for the rest of Chiefs is a little bit too slow. Did weaken that backside presence and probably made made the ability to get that plant down a little bit easier, but unfortunately not flushing that pressure out earlier on in the round made it such a difficult task, especially with BDS continuing to waste out the time with those additional toxic babes from the backside. Didn't even have to use his first one until around the 40-second marker, so had a nearly unlimited amount of time wasting capability. Did still leave the Chiefs a small window, as I said, I made a mistake. I thought he actually had one more in his pocket, and that was not the case, so ended up giving the Chiefs a window of opportunity, but still ended up not being enough for them to work their way forward and secure it at the end of the day. BDS crunch that attempt, pick up the first round, lock away the basement site, and head towards the other end of things. They're now going to go for the second floor hold on their second round.
Very strong hold there from BDS off the back of all of that utility usage, and now Chiefs already down around, but they do not want to let this slip away from them because, as discussed prior, this offensive side is currently a lot stronger than the defense. Just given the bans, yes, they did remove the Monty, yes, indeed, they did remove the Nook, but there's so many other things that they can use to try and manipulate this map, especially in the hard breach department like we were talking about previously. Now for Bouncing, though, back into action here. This time around, though, he'll be on the Osa, no Jackal, switching things up on that end. Ethan will have the Flores here as well, so should be fairly straightforward affair when it comes to starting to get some pressure around the area. Those Osa shields are going to be amazing for trying to get some new angles. Ethan will actually force Shaiko to move out and closer towards square for the time being, but only gets tagged up from the stock window as of right now. Chiefs not trying to move too far forward, but now the pre-fire is starting to tag up Shaiko, and this could build up to a point where he gets taken down.
Shaiko continuing to wait out for an opportunity to play, but unfortunately this Osa shield's going to make it incredibly difficult to line up the shot appropriately here. Boydie, in the meanwhile, has worked his way into the back of square, has drones supporting him too. Hardbreach is not necessarily here and ready to open up the wall access point into the site just yet, though, so BDS is going to remain safe with that 3 to 4 player stack they have on the back line by eating room, and you can see Renshiro a little bit closer towards the banana side of things at the top left of your screen here. You hear the breaches going off, though. Stock access to the outer white hallway is given, but Chiefs have not actually pushed out to take that full wrap for themselves yet, and this is a bit of a double-edged sword because now Lems can play from it, but as he takes the bait, Bouncing is more than ready for the challenge, and he picks up the first kill again for Chiefs.
We saw it built down last time, though. Chiefs unable to secure the round off the back of that opening kill, so hopefully no longer going to be sitting in that category. Shaiko will be holding things down inside of Janitors for the time being. Rotates into CEO, but Chiefs still just so lackadaisical. They're just sitting in square. The case is down. Shaiko's being active, and Chiefs are losing it once again, even though they have the man advantage. Woody still on repel. Worthy now trying to adhere the call to move his way up square. Some serious damage dealt to BDS, but what does it mean when Breed can hit shots like that? And either way, Shaiko finally get taken down. 10 seconds remaining. Chiefs, we have to hop too. Somebody get in the building. Ethan, you're still on the roof. Go, go, go. We're just holding up time, even though Brede still holding things down, and there's the plant. That's what we've been looking for this whole time, but now it's into 0-0. Worthy's got to get this Overwatch call. Doesn't actually end up hitting the mark, and there it is. Finally, the Chiefs able to do it, but my God, was that close.
Yeah, very, very close. 2 consecutive rounds in a row now. Chiefs have pushed their timer to the very bitter end of a possible plant timer, and it's worked out at least once for them here. They're scaring us, to be sure. I heard the panic in your voice.
I felt like the coach at the soccer game, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
We gotta
like,
go,
go. That was me on the last round as they were trying to get the plant going too, but it works out. They thrive in this fairly chaotic scenario. They seem quite comfortable inside of it, in fact, here. And they're able to exchange out the round just barely, giving us a 1-1 scoreline. Now trying to carry it forward a bit more as we go into the staff area hold next. You're going to see just how close this was again from the replays here. Chiefs all knuckle battling their way into the site, but looks like they're just able to make it there and sneak that plan in with literally about a second on the clock.
Yeah, the scariest thing about that is, you know, you get a simple pre-fire or something at the couch, that round's over, and it's BDS's. It's
a huge gamble.
Exactly. It's right down to the wire, and that's what's so frustrating about that play from Chiefs is that you have so much map control already. Just use it. That's the big issue right now, is that they're really not being forward with what they want. They're kind of, you know, pacing back and forth, seeing exactly what they can do, posturing up. Want to see what BDS's next answer will be. But the problem is that BDS tend to dissect teams. They will just pick you to pieces if you sit there and kind of lollygag around the map for a time or two. And that's what we saw at a Shaiko. He's an active player. He's going to look for those challenges. And he found that shot early on that round that started leaving Chiefs into pretty bad headspace. But luckily enough, they were able to claim that round and tie things up 1-1.
Well, Lems will position himself inside of those elevator banks, waiting things out now. A potential first swing from Chiefs. We know it possibly will be some time before we potentially get that, though, given the way the previous 2 rounds have played out for the Chiefs. They are a team that seems to have no problem taking their time. The interesting thing, though, is that when Chiefs are finally ready to go, the actual execute itself is not slow by any means. In fact, it's fairly quick, but in some extent, like we were seeing from Dark Zero earlier today, this kind of mid-round phase is spent excessively droning around the map here as they try to check off every single possibility of where BDS could be hiding out or where they could be setting things up before they truly commit themselves to anything. So we're now finally starting to see members work their way in. And once again, it's going to be Boydie being the first to step forward. What a snapshot as well. Flushing a Lems down the hatch with additional pressure from upstairs and knocking him down. Beautifully played by Boydie. The thing is not confirmed just yet, but yeah, that should be an easy job, thankfully, due to Bouncing's position upstairs.
Very well done from the Chiefs. Early recognition there as to what was going on inside of the hallway. But now for Rafal here inside of Tellers. He'll double back into the Tellers office instead. As there's a lot of cannon fodder being launched his way. Knows someone's at the Tellers door. Challenges back in, but he's dusted by Boyd. He just can't land the shots. That SMG-11 recoil getting to Rafal in the moment. Now Renshiro and the rest of the boys have to try and pick it up from here. Worthy gonna start opening up the top of this can with that skeleton key and making this very difficult to play inside of Archive. But for the Chiefs, they can abuse this last minute. They found their 2 big picks, and now they just have to make sure that they can claim this round off the back of their efforts.
2 members of BDS down and a shell of the former site defense remaining here between Renshiro, Bride, as well as Shaiko, having to spread themselves out quite heftily too. The open area player is going to be a little bit better off over towards break room side just because of the fact that they're able to trade off of each other, but for Renshiro, things are going to look a little bit bleak here depending on when he's engaged upon, as we are, again, coming down to the wire here with just 30 seconds remaining. Chiefs are really going to push the envelope towards the bitter end when they can realistically do this, and this is the problem. It's giving BDS a lot of time to analyze the situation themselves, but at the moment, Bouncing again, finding these excellent entries, 2 in a row to work towards here, as left Renshiro just on his own, and Boydie completing his push. You remember he took up this position earlier in the round and took out the player from Elevator. Now, he's finally given the go-ahead to move further forward and shut down the last member of BDS.
And past that, he also got the pickup on Rafal inside of Teller's office as well, so it was a 3K for him on the round. Quite the convincing one there from Chiefs. Early aggression, catching BDS off guard, and eventually getting Chiefs quite a few bodies in the process. A tactical timeout will be called by BDS to try and figure this one out, as BIOS will be on the microphone to try and assist.
Attack timeout, as clearly things are not going according to plan, but the good news for BDS is they are going to call for this pause before things get really out of hand here. Only 1 round behind. This is easily correctable. More importantly, we just finished the first true wraparound of the sites here. BDS have now unlocked the basement for play after those 2 rounds, so they'll be able to return, but they've already had success. You can go back to the same strategy of trying to waste out the time here by capitalizing on both Goyo and Smoke. The interesting thing, though, obviously we will know for sure. Okay, yeah, he has been brought back in now, but initially we didn't actually have a Smoke picked up here for the basement hold for BDS. Bride has since swapped over to that, and we do have the Goyo locked in as well, so we will be seeing both of those. But an interesting addition is going to be added here. Shaiko is going to play onto the Legion for this one to try and get a little bit more intel over towards his teammates when you see guys like Bouncing suddenly rushing in to get those opening entries.
Well, so quick explanation of what you guys are seeing on the right-hand side of your screen, because obviously defense does not have attacker repick. Let's just get that out of the way initially. But basically what you're seeing is BIOS and what he did for this call. All of those operators were previously locked in that are to the right-hand side of the arrow, and to the left-hand side is what they're playing now, but that's all done inside of the pick phase, not the prep phase, okay? So nobody can change once we actually get in and start setting up reinforcements and everything. You cannot change your operator on the defensive side, but it will show you what they were thinking initially. And looks like here they went for maximum delay. They're going to keep the Goyo. Shaiko was going to be on that initially. He switched over to the Legion, brought the Electroclaws to try and hold things down for a little while longer. which should honestly bode pretty well for them. No Thatcher here for Chiefs. Is going to be a downstairs defense, and they brought the Maverick, so that means that Ethan's going to have to torch open all of these hatches.
Things continuing to look promising for the Chiefs, but they are certainly going to have their work cut out for them inside of this round specifically. As you said, a massive time-wasting composition being brought to bear now by BDS, even for just the electric walls and whatnot. Every operator, for the most part, except for Rafal, is pretty much meant to waste time here. Even these simple things like the Legion goo mines.
Even kind of Rafal, too, because it's Nitro Cell, and also if you throw a smoke, you can't compete with him. So it just makes things really, really difficult for Chiefs at the current moment. The good news is that since Alims only has 2 Electro Claws in Kaid's kit, he's only allowed to get 2 hatches. So one of the hatches should be relatively free if they do want to try and go that avenue, but we'll just have to see.
The only unfortunate part of this situation for the Chiefs is they failed to catch on to this, most notably the Kaid play, because we do actually have Thatcher available for play. So they would have had a very easy counter available for that if they wanted to go down there. Some teams choose not to do that, despite the fact that Kaid is available for play, though. So, as we're going to see, Worthy...
He's ready for war.
Waltzing right up. He's going to see if anyone potentially is peeking against him. He gets security control for free. He's actually a little bit surprised, as you guys can tell, that he's actually gotten that far. So he will stop at the doorway, just, obviously making sure he doesn't push this a little bit too far and give away a free kill early on, should he not be able to win out any potential 1v1s that he runs into.
I think Ethan potentially putting a hole inside of the other hatch so they can just nade it and blow it up instead, which should make it relatively easy. Either that, or I do believe if I did hear that Selma charge go off, that might have been some of the smartest utility use combo I've ever seen in my life. Hold on. I want to make sure that I'm right about this before I say anything stupid. 1 second. What I believe happened? Okay. All right. It's not what I thought initially. What I thought happened is that they took away part of that electrified hatch, and it didn't affect the body of the actual Selma charge, because that's the only thing that gets destroyed, not what actually goes out and blows up the wall. So if you see where I'm going with this, if you destroy that part, maybe possibly the Selma charge could go down there, but I don't think so. That would be insanely broken if so. But past that, we're going to have the Flores drones come in and be able to get rid of this deployable shield, as well as the plant starting to go down for Digital, but this should be stopped. The initial smoke's not going to do it. Digital is going to get tagged up just a little bit and finally back off, but that's going to be all due to the bullets from Shaiko.
Just like the previous 3 rounds, guys, it is coming down to our final 30 seconds. No kills have been picked up by either team. Chiefs are ready to move in. A perfect nade moves out and is able to take down Goyo, holding the line here. But at the same time, only just now baiting out the second charge from the Toxic Babes that Bride has in his pocket here. He's already got the last one primed and ready to go. He's going to throw it out because we've reached null timer. There's no time remaining for Chiefs. They have to force the issue through these Toxic Babes, but it might have worked there. We see one of them forcing the issue past it, but he reveals too much to the doorway. Shaiko counters it. Less than 10 seconds to reattempt it now, but a few of them have to fall back. Worthy with an impressive pickup. Now they need to lock it down, though, as they are at 0 timer, and they can't be stopped here. He has to hold the line, but Bride just waltzes right in and shuts it all down as BDS are going to secure a second round.
I don't know if you guys forgot, but Bride, possibly one of the best supports of all time. I just wanted to kindly remind all of you that this man is absolutely nasty and has been for a very long time. All the way to back when he played for Vitality. That's like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. But BDS finally able to get one under themselves. After BIOS assists just a little bit, the delay works out and they're able to take another round away from the Chiefs. We've tied things up here at a 2-2 scoreline.
Things looking good at the moment here for BDS as they finally rebound there in convincing fashion too on their basement hold. A few scary kills here or there, but especially as we got close to that null timer situation, it seemed like BDS truly did have great control over it there, putting everything on to basically just one member of the Chiefs to do or die inside of that scenario there, so not going to be able to pull it off. However, here's the issue now. BDS do need to extend out to other sites, and so far they have failed to win every other site except for the basement here, only catching it on, of course, the retry and the initial attempt. So for Chiefs, got the work cut out for them for sure, but they'd have as well already found success attacking here previously. It's all going to be on the adjustments from BDS to see if they can slow down the Chiefs enough. More importantly, make enough of a dent inside of this early to mid round to make their execute a bit of a moot point, as they're putting pretty much everything into that based on the way we've seen these past 4 rounds play out.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And now with these 2 remaining rounds on this half, something's got to give. Obviously, we can end in a dead heat. And, well, with the Chiefs' last results attacking this site, we could be seeing that depending on what BDS have to say. Ethan with the drone mechanics there for just a split second. Kind of a harebrained scheme, but doesn't work out for him in the end. He's going to go for it yet again as well, and he's just going to blow up the wall here. This is going to make a really, really nice angle in via the printer window, but unfortunately enough for Ethan, it's not going to be close enough to actually get the castle barricade as well, so he's going to have to apply more utility to that area, but since Flores has so many of those Rotero drones, he's going to actually be able to keep one up, just in case they do have to get rid of something else that's kind of hard to reach, like an Evil Eye.
Bodie, he's going to be the first yet again, as you guys have probably caught on at this point. He's very much a player to do that.
Barricade. Fair enough.
Yep. We'll see that last. It's actually going to be the final one of those two. With the Flores drones working itself in. So Ethan now out of charges here to use, but has opened up a few warpaths for the rest of his team to try and utilize here as Worthy and one additional member of Bouncin, I believe, have already worked their way in through the second floor, starting to take control. For Worthy specifically, beginning to open up these top-down angles inside of Tellers. They want to make sure there's no outside forces that are going to attempt to rotate and cut these guys off, especially as they descend through the main stairs here. As once again, going down that checklist, making sure they've accounted for every possibility of what BDS could throw at them before they commit to anything close to the site.
Well, Digital back onto the drone game here, so the Chiefs can extend themselves into this mid-floor. Try and punish any of the BDS members around the area, where they'll get a nice vertical angle towards small office, but nobody home at the current moment, all except for the yellow ping you see, but that's over inside of the other area. I do not believe that's right below him. Luckily enough, with the recent changes to Buck here in about like the last half year, he's got a secondary hard breach tool now, and he'll actually be able to open that reinforcement himself. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife nowadays with his skeleton key as well as his hard breach.
Continuing to see the timer tick down here. Chiefs are going to get to that null point, which means we need to see the aggression braille out soon, and we certainly should, based on the way that the past 4 rounds have gone. BDS, in the meanwhile, just has really no choice but to sit back and respect this to some extent, just kind of wait for it here. Obviously, the jitters are going to be increasing for BDS as they have to be wondering when that aggression is finally going to work its way in, as again, Chiefs continuing to play this down to the bitter end of the timer before they attempt, really, in some of these rounds, any sort of aggression, as we've just seen here. The first kill showing up at 25 seconds when Ethan goes for a peek through electrical. Boydie working in, quickly knocks out this yokai drone before it can stun them, but Renshiro with a slam and headshot against Boydie stops him from going any further. 11's able to get one more before he's finally traded out, and Ethan, along with Digital, just cleaning up here, however, brings it down to a 1v2. Rafal going to try to work his way in and stop this Planet Temp from going down. Will he be able to do it? Well, he'll get the player defending it, but now he's given his last opponent a chance to clutch this out. The case is down, the ramp is out, and Digital gets the round for the Chiefs.
You want to know how to clutch things up? Stay on the move. That's how. They keep that information game moving, and that's exactly what we see out of Chiefs. That's going to be a hotly contested round back and forth, either way you slice it inside of that 1v2. But very well done from the Chiefs to be able to pull ahead here against BDS, which, I mean, they have time and time again proven that they can really take it to this team.
Yeah, definitely the case here, and it's in really somewhat annoying fashion at the end of the day, right? Because BDS, they don't have anything to work off of here. There's barely anyone in the building. If Chiefs actually do take any map control in the early round, it's super safe. It's not an area where realistically someone from BDS can do anything about it, so they just have no choice but to sit back on the site and just like, no. Just like waste down the timer, because that's all they really can do.
Dude, that's exactly what I was thinking, is anticipation inside of Siege is a killer. It can honestly be the death knell, because that's what we saw inside of this, is that BDS are, it's like, okay, there's 30 seconds remaining, they have to peek us from somewhere, and they're just constantly trying to look through all the different facets at which Chiefs could try and attack them from. And like you'd mentioned, there were so many warpaths open that, well, there's not as many bodies to try and hold on to all of those. And eventually, a domino falls, and the Chiefs are able to start taking site because of that in very quick fashion. So for BDS, they try and battle back there, but all for naught at the end of the day. The best thing they can do for their defensive half is split even.
Another attempt here from Chiefs, as we see actually quite a few repicks coming in for this round. I think just because they might have been expecting another open area take by the operators they had initially picked in towards, but now seeing it upstairs prompts them to go a different direction here. Afinka brought in for Worthy. The Osa is back again for Bouncin to put that initial pressure into stock and square. And away from that, an IQ back in play for Boydie as well to try and see if there's going to be any wrinkles to deal with in the utility department as they work their way forward. And he'll be able to see this through the window, too, so anything nearby that will be his for the taking, and of course can also ping those out for his teammates, too, now with the more recent changes that was made to her about a year or so ago.
Yes, indeed. And now, Chiefs here, 50 seconds off the clock already. Chiefs lean into this slower gameplay initially. just once again. It's worked out pretty well for them, at least for that last round. We also saw more aggressive face from them some previous rounds, especially with their elevator take and their clearing of the Oryx inside of that area. And now Habana will do what she does best, try and get this wall open here for E3, but they're gonna have to get rid of the mute jammer first, but this should be a fairly straightforward affair as well. Worthy will toss a grenade up here. Well, my disc, yeah, you'll grab it, but thank you for the mute jammer either way.
That'll go down, and the X-Kairos will now be immediately activated here, putting her fall onto a bit of an island as he no longer has safe harbor to rotate out towards the site from. He could make the choice to fall back, but problem, first of all, is the hatch isn't even open, so we will need to find a way to get that done before he falls back. And
he would literally have to have a limbs run over and shoot this for him right now.
So
there's
pretty much
he is
not leaving this spot as a result of not opening that hatch.
Well, kind of unfortunate circumstances for him at the current moment, especially with the wall being broken there.
The good news is he's got 2 ADSs at least sitting there. I can see the 2 lights. In fact, it might be 3, but no, it's looking like 2 he's got for himself. So he can at least eat up that first one there. That one's on the cooldown. He's got the second one as an insurance policy, and by the time that one's used, we will probably see him refresh the first one's timer as well. The thing is, I don't know if Chiefs realize that the hatch isn't open.
They could necessarily blow him up from underneath if they really wanted to. If you bounce it against the back wall of the elevator, I can almost guarantee you the shrapnel could get him. And I think Worthy? Oh, Worthy, we're on the same page here, my friend. Please, please. Oh, it's so little damage. I'm actually so very surprised about that angle, but I guess, you know, beggars can't be choosers. Right about something, but wrong about the damage there. Bouncing will be able to at least get one, but I don't know if they're aware of the elevator player. No, we still have somebody around this space. Renshiro and Shaiko have both been down, but Rafali's being bared down upon. That's the issue that we're having. Alem's able to take down one. Chiefs, this timer starting to run away from them again. Only 8 seconds remaining as Ethan tries to bounce back towards Janitor. Bread will pick up another one. Bride actually with 2. Bride with 3. Apologies about that though, folks. Haven't got to cast BDS here in a little while, but can't apologize about the talent there. Incredible stuff from Bride as BDS will pull a rabbit out of a hat and take it to the Chiefs there for round 6. It's a 3-3 scoreline.
Mainly off the resilience of Rafal, just a rock inside of the elevator, refusing to move. Didn't really have to do much, to be honest with you, either. Just the presence there was enough to really scare Chiefs. Keep constant overwatch over that as you had 2, if not more, players keeping their eyes on it from both the banana as well as the further Whitehall angle that would lead over towards Square to make sure that he didn't try to hop out and do anything. I don't even think he ever really did try to actually hop out and do anything either. I think he just sat in the corner and waited for someone to peek him, and it never truly happened, but just the possibility of it was enough to scare off the Chiefs and leave them with really not enough player power to push into the site setup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chiefs, I think they had a lot going for them. You know, at least initially, they had a pretty good read of the situation, especially positional-wise, as we saw 2 BDS members get taken out pretty handedly, as well as a recognition of the elevator player. But then past that, it comes back down to the timer. They're just simply sitting around too long and hoping that BDS are going to continue to overextend. You've already killed 2 people. Just do more stuff. You have the map control. There's so many different facets that you can possibly abuse up against BDS when they're down 2 members like that. And Chiefs just seem like they are really, really good at getting this initial footing, but they just don't know what to do with it sometimes.
So with a dead heat tie at halftime here, both teams with 3 rounds, it's up to the Chiefs to change their own fate on their own defensive side, and for BDS to breach through it. But yes, we'll be a little bit cautious about the way they approach this, though. We've got some tricks up to the Chiefs' sleeve, most notably in the fact that these EDDs that'll be coming out from Bounce in here, trying to capitalize on some of the more chaotic scenarios that tend to happen towards the end of the round. For Worthy, you'll need to capitalize on escape pretty soon here. You saw that Tracer race by his head a few seconds ago, nearly leading to his elimination. And now that he spotted out the drone over by Beepers, he'll make the very smart decision to back away from open areas. It's a little bit too obvious what his intentions are at this point.
Absolutely. And now for Bounce, I'm holding things down on white stairs, and I think it's a little bit easier for him. We'll destroy the little hand railing and make it to where he can actually fall back down a lot easier. BDS are going to stick to the outside of the building. As of right now, just want to make sure that we're able to measure twice and cut once in this situation. And Shiro be able to start working the top of Square. Not all that much action, though, for the Chiefs. No real extended hold any longer as Bouncin has fallen off that stairwell that he was on previously and has given control over to BDS.
Bouncin will now take up this position and just going to rotate away. One of their operators here, Ethan, I believe, is the one, so that he can get himself into safer harbors closer to loggers, and will not have to worry about distractions should he be able to bring out the yokai drone here. And unfortunate timing for Lems. I think he actually might have had an opportunity to kill players in lockers. Ooh, he's going to get it again, too. The peak is there from Digital, but he'll learn his lesson quite quickly now that they know that Lems is holding the top end of this one. This is interesting, too. Rafal going to go for the opening of the back vault hatch over here in the main lobby for the first floor. So potential for him to insert himself there. Obviously, the defenders on the Chiefs will hear that very loud hatch opening. But still, how will they play around it? Are they going to use it, or is it just a farce to potentially throw the Chiefs off and get another player to commit there? This is another issue they have yet to deal with as well. Worthy still in the back of server, shutting down a wild attempt from Alems to just rush down blue stairs.
Yeah, trying to dislodge the server player. Doesn't work out, though. Shaiko, though, might have a read of his own. This is looking very similar to the play that we saw from Bounce, and he's going to be able to down the player inside a garage. Shots start getting fired back and forth, but it's Ethan to take him out to the soft wall for the garage. And now, grenades out for Rafal. Trying to deal with the vault player. It's going to deal some serious damage to Boydie, but nothing that's actually going to end up downing him. A makeshift 3 versus 3 right now as Bouncin had been previously downed inside of the parking garage. Bride tries to go for the plant. Rafal with the nade to clean up Boydie, though, and he'll try and cancel this out. Renshiro will find yet another one onto Digital, and it's all came down to just Ethan inside of Gold Vault. He does have some yokais possibly still in play unless they've been found by BDS, but that doesn't matter when Renshiro can find him instead. BDS are able to get it done.
BDS secure another round for themselves, and more importantly, they re-secure their advantage inside of this matchup here, up 4-3. Took them that last minute or so to really figure out the way the Chiefs were lining up their own play, and it looked like it was going to be a little bit bleak after we saw their first player rush down the blue stairs and unfortunately fall down outright. But as we saw in yesterday's matchup for the Chiefs, the opening kill going into their favor doesn't necessarily translate to a round victory, unlike what we were seeing from teams like Dark Zero earlier today. It's only the beginning, it seems, of the fight, as Chiefs have trouble holding on to that advantage, even after they pick up the kill.
Great early game, great mid game, late game falls off a cliff.
A little bit of work to do there.
Well, you know, I would say the other ones, they were a lot more active inside of their mid game, and that's really where we got to see a lot of that action. We had that one round that was super, super close, but I mean, even then, you still got to chalk that up to kind of a poor late game decision inside of the round that they were able to secure upstairs inside of CEO against BDS. Just a couple of missteps that could have definitely let BDS back in, but obviously did not work out. And either way, technical pause here, folks. Just got to check some audio things. As you can see, the man right there from Chiefs trying to fix his stuff right now. And once we have that done, we'll be back into the game.
Yeah, so hopefully just a quick fix here. Just unplug, replug, and get them ready to...
Did you try turning it off and turning it back on again? I heard that works.
I think that's what they're trying right now.
It's clearly still on, John. The RGB's there. That's what,
well,
that's what it
the
is.
PC is, but... It's actually like a pretty complicated circuit the players have there with those headphones and stuff. So.
Oh, absolutely. It's quite the system, and that's why, especially like when LANs first start, it's like, okay, well, what's going on with the white noise? What's going on with this?
I think that's when he just unplugged and plugged back in was like the white noise machine, if that's what I'm looking at correctly there. But that can also be coming from a different source depending on the way it's being done. So
yeah, I love that they also bought Jaeger's earphones for literally everyone on both sides of the team. It's quite nice. You guys didn't know there's aviator headsets that pilots use and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Also, they, well, wouldn't you expect it, do a pretty bang-up job of being able to, well, stop noise.
Because planes and helicopters are, well, pretty loud.
Yeah, yeah.
Serves our purposes pretty well too.
Oh, absolutely. I was just about to say. I know that you probably share this similar feeling, but it's a night and day difference being on a plane with noise canceling headphones and not.
Like, it's actually a pretty good way to explain what the the white noise cancellation is actually doing. It's a very similar effect.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds a little bit differently. It's kind of a little bit more of a hiss, but the good news is that the in-ear buds stop a majority of it. It's not really an annoying thing that happens in the background. I've definitely seen it happen to some players in the past and different titles and stuff like that, but fortunately we've been pretty lucky so far here today.
All right, well, we've almost got everybody back into the server, folks. Just waiting on one more player from BDS to join up, and they've just managed to get themselves in, so shouldn't be too much further delay in starting the game. I'm going to assume here, I'll have to check on the Chiefs side of things just to make sure that we don't have any further problems, but aside from that, Getting closer and closer to game time here as the Chiefs have fallen behind by that one additional round here. Going to need to quickly find a way to make up for that. Whether it's getting a bit more aggressive on this defensive side or through another avenue, we will certainly see. The problem is no longer do they have the right of initiation as we saw on their own attacking sides. The defense, where they need to really stand out here. But unfortunately, the defensive side, just like yesterday's matches, where things look a little bit weaker for both of these teams. They do need to be cautious about how they approach it as well here. If the opening kills and just the general gunfights they take outside of the site are going to end up being more of a mixed bag. And this could also explain why we are starting to see these teams, or at least these teams inside of this matchup, trend towards those more late round fights if they don't have confidence in their ability to clear out more pesky, lonely players spread out throughout the map. Those extended games and whatnot that you tend to get on the defense.
Yeah, and honestly, the stats reflect this wholeheartedly when it comes to Chiefs' defensive stands. Worthy is actually the only player that has a positive rating as of right now for their defensive side. He's got a 1.24, 10 and 8, so honestly pretty close on his kill count as well, and everybody else is negative. Closest person to him is Digital with a 0.93, and he's actually tied with Boydie. And really past that, there's really nothing else to talk about. I mean, the KPRs for their defense are pretty lackluster, 2.55s, a 0.36, but luckily enough, Boydie and Worthy kind of pick up the pieces, a 0.82 for Boydie, Worthy has a 0.91, but their survivability rating is just, I mean, it's off a cliff, John. Boydie and Bouncin both have a 9% survival rating on the defensive end.
I mean, that makes sense though when you consider, like, I mean, even just seeing the rounds that were played out, right? In the first set, they're just going. Like, they don't have any support. There's no refraggers following them a few steps behind. They're, as far as I can tell, I'm really being droned in a lot of situations too. At least when they're going for the site, like the initial clears and stuff, I've noticed a few drones supporting them.
This is for Chiefs defensive end.
Okay, so for defense. Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, to be fair though, that's even somewhat relatable on the attacking side because we were seeing them be like those forefront players, those out and about players. So it still extends to that point a bit.
Yeah, absolutely the case, and we can actually talk about that a little bit as well here as I get these pulled up for you guys. Yep, Chiefs indeed have a little bit of a better offensive side. That's where Bouncin really comes into play quite a bit.
And we saw that.
1.26 for him, and yes, indeed, we did see that. Ethan also having a hand in quite a few things, but that's where Worthy starts to falter a little bit as well. But as we'd seen, Chiefs would kind of reach that lull point there at about the minute mark where they really didn't know what they wanted to do with the round. Sometimes they did a very good job of just being able to shut down BDS and being able to take that time and use that because of their man advantage, but other times it kind of came back to bite them in the butt. So hopefully they can try and rectify some things when it comes to this defense that could potentially help them to get to OT and hopefully help them when they can have some offenses yet again. But it's going to be a long road ahead of them as for the Chiefs, they are down yet again here and BDS have the favorable side.
OT, of course, in the cards, but certainly Chiefs will want to look for, especially considering their current position inside of the tournament. I don't believe they have any points yet, if I'm remembering our results.
They have 0 points.
Yeah, so they were sitting on 0 points right now. So they absolutely need to get a regulation win out of this one, is the thing. They can't really afford to take this to overtime and try to sneak out a win there. This needs to be a solid 7-5, 7-4, something like that, if they really want to truly look for the capability to still sneak through here, given the way that yesterday went for them, and especially considering the position that I think some of the other teams in their group are going to be sitting in now.
Yeah, absolutely the case. This is indeed a matchup inside of Group D, with Astralis currently topping off the charts with 8 points. Team BDS currently at 6, with Wolves following that up with 4, and then you guessed it, Chiefs at the very bottom with 0. And the craziest thing about that is their round differential isn't even that far off from some of these other teams. BDS is a -1, Wolves a -3, Chiefs only -5.
We've had a lot of teams with a lot of very close shaves. I think we saw one earlier today as well with Dark Zero as well as Heroic, with those teams going to the bitter end. So many 7-5s, right? And that's just the one round difference between getting that point or not getting it here. So very, very close affair, and that shows in the round differential here. But Chiefs just not able to sneak it over the edge at the end of the day there, so costing them some very serious points that would have allowed them to kind of breathe a sigh of relief in games like this here. Maybe not have to go the full distance, look for the outright shutdown and regulation, could maybe play for OT or whatnot. But the problem is with Astralis almost already locked in for the playoffs here. That's already one slot from the group gone away, and that makes it very, very dangerous to even chase the bottom slot at this point. They have to focus up. They have to start looking for wins. If they drop this one, we're already going to be seeing Chiefs drift very, very close to elimination.
Absolutely. Now, I will say this, though, being quite candid here for Chiefs, I have been quite happy with their play. you know, past kind of the late round that we've talked about. But I mean, this team is like 1 or 2 decisions per round of just being utterly dominant in what they're doing. It's very, very close. They just need to get more tight-knit, kind of trust each other a little bit more, and go forward with the plan. And I think the Chiefs really have got something because, I mean, for God's sakes, you're playing up against BDS right now. This is not a slouch team, and this is the second time that they've been able to try and compete with them in such a tight-knit fashion.
Absolutely the case. And for BDS, again, another very storied roster. Still looking to make their own waves here on international soil as they've come so close so many times. I mentioned in our pregame the fact that, again, SI 2020 was really the first time we saw this team under this organization showcase their skills for the first time. Managed to push it all the way. If I remember correctly, I think I was like 3rd or 4th place, I think, in SI 2020 BDS got it.
BDS was,
they were semifinals,
it was either
right?
quarters or semis.
Yeah, I want to say they made it to the semis, but I can't remember it immediately off the top of my head. And then the legacy just kind of continued from there. Obviously during COVID, stuck inside of Europe by themselves, but even when we came back from that, really trying to push themselves, make their names heard, and it was really rearing up to do so for SI 2022, but unfortunately, again, some unfortunate circumstances befell them there, brought them back down once more. Now they sit here, once again, at the Charlotte Major, looking to prove themselves one more time. It's been a struggle for this team to try and lift a trophy, as it has for many of our teams in Siege. So many great stories, and BDS are one of them.
Yes, indeed. It seems like no matter what happens, we really never get an underdog that wins a tournament. Except, if you do remember, Team 1 taking the Mexico Major. True. That was one where no one expected that to happen.
Started the story of Alamal, too.
Started the story of Alamal, the whole reason he's on G2. So pretty incredible stuff from them. But, I mean, like you were saying, BDS, especially out of these two teams, has such an incredible story for a multitude of these players. Not only Shaiko either. I mean, even Alims. I absolutely love Alims' story. Him coming from Secret and, you know, really coming to the helm of this team and showing exactly what they were capable of. Finally gave them someone to trust when it came to calls. And it's definitely paid off massively for them, not only internationally, but also nationally, as they've been one of the strongest teams in Europe for what seems like eternity.
All right, guys, just a quick update. Apologies for the delay of game, by the way. I do believe we have resolved the issue, as
Fingers
I know
crossed.
we saw someone from BDS say that they were ready in the chat. So I think we just need to remake the lobby now is the only thing holding us up here, and then we should be good to restart the game. And there we go, yeah. Got our observer back in the lobby. You guys can't see that, of course, just giving you commentary on what I can see. But with all 10 players in and ready to go, I think we should be starting this up in just a few moments and seeing if BDS can chain together their attacking side into a victory, or if Chiefs will have a little bit more fight, either on a repeat of the basement site after the most recent round, or possibly somewhere else on the map. Here we go, back into the map now. We will go back in game in just a few seconds, folks, once we confirm that everything is A-OK when we go live with the round.
Yes, indeed. And everybody's got audio, I do believe. Yay. Hopefully I didn't just Caster's curse that, because I'll be really sad.
You're going to see a rehost in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, right? It's always my fault, too. It's like I was saying earlier, I always pick the worst times. Executive CEO is going to be the defensive site for Chiefs, and we're going to have the Bandit come along for the ride here to try and hold down the wall. But you can see the plan is for, well, the site to more than likely get exploded, because Ethan is going to be bringing the Warden. He wants to be very, very ready for anything that comes their way. And with a site like this, well, it's better to be safe than sorry, especially with the way that the North Window's plan towards the site. There's so many angles to deal with and everything else in between. And with Rafal on Twitch and Bride on Thermite, we have quite a few smokes in play as well in order for the Warden to abuse.
So 2 of those panels on Banana are going to get castle walled out. We will more than likely see another one used to block out one of the doorways. Potentially the final one being used to block out the window too. It's really up to Digital in the way he wants to play it here. A few choices to be made. Obviously, we've seen teams really drift pretty heavily into these repels as well. That's why you see at least one of the panels being positioned over here on the longer windows, 2 inside of the site connector, just to make sure that no one can abuse them too heavily from the repel. Gives a little bit of a safety box in the back left corner of the B site. For BDS, though, they are spawned out and working their way towards the building now. No huge surprises in their operator department. confident here. We've got the buck in play too. It should be interesting to see how that plays out, if they're able to potentially work anything from down below and open up opportunities there. But more than likely, will be the usual focus on square take and, of course, the repels to work their way in and harass the members of Chiefs deeper out of the site to open up a plant opportunity.
Yes, indeed. And for the Chiefs, that's their game plan as well. Try and defend the side that Square will be here. Over towards the east, Bouncing's going to have a nice angle here with the deployable shield that we've started to see used more and more inside of this stock area. Inside this room here with these reinforcements, Renshiro is actually going to get tagged up as he's going to open up another angle here for Bouncing. Won't lose his life just yet, but it's going to be a pre-fire game back and forth to see who's going to lose their noggin first. Not going to be a challenge here from Bouncing as he wants to try and play out his life, and he dang well should. He's got Wamai. You want to make sure to get as many of those discs out as you possibly can, eat up all of that offensive utility, but when Shaiko in top square, you might not be as lucky. He's going to lose that out, doesn't even get a chance to try and shoot back as the LMG will tear him to shreds.
Nate should take care of that deployable shield, so more than likely not much room for Digital or another member of the team to swing out and take up that position here. Not that they would really want to either. Already down a player, and we've seen before Chiefs are already struggling to translate when they get the opening kill, so now that they are down a player also, more than likely going to put them into a pretty reserved state, if my judgment on the situation is correct. But for BDS, it's a little slow wind-up for them. They've only used about half the round out so far, so plenty of time. As they switch around those drones, actually it looks like they would get some intel on a player downstairs or closer to the site. To follow up on that one, and there we go. Yeah, it's going to be this run out here from Worthy that has been caught here. He's trying to make the best of the situation, but it just doesn't pan out. Shaiko's got his number, and on top of that, Alems was also able to find Ethan closer upstairs. Renshiro with another shutdown outside. Digital just outright peaks as well, despite being in the 1vx. Not much hope to win it, unfortunately, regardless, so pushes us towards the end of it very quickly. As BDS clean up shop there, no problem whatsoever taking control of that 8th round, and for the first time in this game, a much more secure lead being built up for them at 5-3.
Yes, indeed. BDS on the offensive side, but it seems like they still own the building. They simply walk through the Chiefs. Starts off with Bouncing, but he's just the first domino in this effect as they're all knocked over pretty handedly. BDS now, though, with the 5-3 lead, looking to try and extend this up and on to match point here for the next round. Chiefs are not feeling confident in that upstairs hold any longer, and honestly, I can't blame them. It's going to be a tactical timeout for them as well, as hopefully you can get some helpful advice from their coach.
Yeah, definitely going to need it here, as that was not the way that round was meant to be played out whatsoever here. Chiefs just flatlining, unfortunately. A huge fall from Grace, just even in terms of how closely they were competing with BDS on a gunfight basis for that round. So definitely need to cool off at a minimum here, even if it's not necessarily going to be for strategical purposes, just getting themselves to reset for a moment here and recenter before they dive back into what's going to be another open area hold too. But as Stokes was mentioning, and you guys can see it in the back there, so some input being thrown in from their coach, some discussion needing to be had. So definitely going to be potentially changing some things up here too as they get ready to dive back into it. No surprises on the operator pick, so it hasn't spurred any immediate repicks or anything of that nature. Not that we would necessarily expect that. That is fairly set in right now for the way you defend into these sites. And we are going to have a fairly usual lineup. Cade, Castle. I know we've got an alibi pick in there too, so a comfortable one, but you guys can see it here now that we have a better idea. No, yeah, we're going to have the alibi pick from Worthy down below. Mute, as well as the Castle and Wamai coming out there as well.
Ethan gonna drop the Valkyrie, bring in the Electro Claws instead, and obviously no Thatcher pickup here for BDS, but it'll be the Lion and the Capitao. So fortunately enough, Bouncing does have Wamai and can potentially get rid of a couple of these arrows, but we'll have to see what Todd had to say to the Chiefs in order to assist. Some castle barricades upstairs, so most definitely going to be a top floor hold, and that's just adding to the pile, isn't it? Worthy, deployable shield here inside of the main hallway. He'll get rid of the hatch, but not completely. I don't know if he knows that or not, but either way, that actually might come back to bite them a little bit later, but if it does, it's either going to be really funny or really terrible. Well,
I mean, at least it's more realistic to open it with a different gun this time on that hatch there. But either way, for the Chiefs, being thrown against the wall to some extent here. Only 2 more rounds that can potentially be dropped, and BDS already stacking up a dangerous combination here. They might just go for it here. Lem sneaking his way in. He's got the lifeline. He's popped it. There we go, but they wouldn't account for Ethan holding the line, but he guarantees a 1-for-1 exchange as Brede works with Shaiko to swing their way in and make up for that relatively quickly. The plant going down shouldn't be much in the way of capability to interrupt this because the open site pressure is minimal here. BDS shutting down the Chiefs.
Shaiko.
Player by player as Shaiko gets 3 in a row here. Digital, as you can see, already being burned out of this position inside of small too. He has no choice but to descend into the basement, try to wrap up through main and make a play, but it's probably already over here. 1v4. They have to have a lockdown against him somewhere in main stairs here, certainly for blue stairs as well. So how will Digital attempt this? Only 10 seconds left just to get on the case, and there you go. BDS run through a second consecutive round here and are only one more away from ending the match.
Yeah, not too much of a cloak and dagger there. It was really just hammer meets nail.
That was just good droning and see, like, oh yeah, they have like nothing set up here to stop us. This is just, we just swing 3 people against 1 guy and we have the site.
Well, you know, it's really nice nowadays that you don't have to use somebody like Sledge where you have to use the big hammer to break the castle barricade down, everybody rush in. The Gun 6 is just a little bit quicker in a certain way just because you can get your other gun out pretty dang fast. That's exactly what we see. The Gun 6 pops the door and they're immediately ready for these gunfights. Unfortunately, the Zofia goes down a little bit early, but that's really all you can say about BDS's matchup there. Just weren't able to win the initial one-on-one, but don't worry, there was 2 other BDS members behind that guy, so pretty straightforward affair, either way you slice it. So Chiefs now down 3 rounds, and the big issue now, John, is that they were capable of picking up not only 3 rounds, but able to close this out up against BDS magically. They could only get 2 points.
So it is not going to make a massive difference at the end of the day. Even if they do claim this match, they're trying to increase their odds in the group here. So unfortunate for the Chiefs. The other problem, too, is just coming off of that pause, 1 round to go. That was supposed to be the change-up for them. That was supposed to be where things finally turned around into their own favor, but obviously this was not the case. And what do they do now? As it's flatlined entirely, they have gone back to the same site, so we are going to be seeing a very similar attempt. The operator lineup is fairly similar as well, with the main change-up being Ethan going over towards the Valkyrie this time to try and give them a little bit more intel. BDS will not execute in the same fashion. That's really only going to work once, as Chiefs would have been expecting that this time. Despite that, though, you can see that Ethan, again, is really the only one near the site. There's a couple of rotates, but they would take a few seconds to get into position, as once more open area is, no pun intended, a bit open for the taking. Those rotates over towards Tellers, though, will need to be dealt with, and that might be the priority here for BDS as they go for a top clear, too.
I think the most surprising thing for me at the current moment is the selection of castle barricades and where they're going. Don't know if this is castle barricade. We're about to find out. It's completely free, and I also know the kitchen door is free as well, so we'll be able to just peer inside here. No one playing the bomb chassis at the current moment. Bounce is going to get some damage dealt to him, but John, I think that we're about to see Rush Part 2 as we start swinging through. There's no info as of right now except for the drone. It's going to be a swing from Ethan, but it's an ARX. This deals some serious damage, and this is what I was talking about, the castle barricade. This is why this setup is really bad. Brede, that's a free plant, John. What do you do from here?
And they're locked out is the problem, too. Unless they move up and try to take down the castle barricades, which at that point, BDS could shoot their feet while they're in the middle of that. They're not going to be able to get themselves back in. They try to make like a whack-a-mole setup to work with here. Worthy, at least, is going to be able to pop out of one of those holes and take down Shaiko here. But where do they go from here? How do they actually get back into the site? That's the problem. Alems, though, getting overwhelmed, but he makes a move, gets himself deeper into the office to be able to take down Body and keep this fight winnable here for BDS. It looks like Chiefs are battling back into it, though. BDS did not secure proper post-plant positioning, and now they're paying the price for it. 2 more quick kills for the Chiefs, and they get it done on a beautiful retake here. A little bit close to the timer. They only had about 2 extra seconds left, but they do manage to get the job done, and that'll keep them in the fight for at least 1 more round. 2 to go, though, and they need to do them consecutively.
Yeah, a little bit of a misposition there from BDS at the very tail end of that post plant, but kind of an unfortunate circumstance for them at the top of square as well. Since they ended up going for things so quickly, they didn't exactly know where all the Chiefs members were, so one of them is able to slip through the cracks and get in behind Shaiko, who really could have been the man to end the entire round there if he ends up winning that engagement. He's got a power position for square, the bomb's now planted for him. I mean, there's just so many ways that he can possibly break that down for BDS to have yet another round win, but fortunately enough for the Chiefs, that has not happened, and they're able to stave off the end of this game thus far. Only 2 more rounds to try and guarantee overtime, and, well, they've shut me up, at least here for the time being.
Like I said before, though, 2 more additional rounds need to be picked up, and they will gamble on a basement hole to try and get this done too. BDS will bring, of course, the appropriate utility to deal with this, but as well, we have the OSOP pick still in play from Rafal. I'm curious to see if that's going to stick around now that we know that this is going to be a confirmed basement play. We can see this castle barricade is going to be blocking off some things, allow for some greater roaming capability to come out from Chiefs. They are not going to be sticking around in the basement based on the way that they're setting themselves up right now. They want to fight in the early round. They want to take the challenge directly to BDS, prevent them from just clean sweeping and picking up a 7-4 scoreline here. So let's see if that is going to be be the winning strategy, as they'll need to open up routes to retreat back through the hatches as well.
This is going to get pretty scary for Chiefs, depending on how BDS want to use this operator lineup here. Not only do we have the Dokkaebi in for a Lems, but also we have Renshiro on the sledge, which could signify coming top floor here, clearing things out and trying to use that sledgehammer to break up a lot of this verticality, which is going to make it to where Archives and a lot of that area downstairs in Tellers is really difficult to play, and that's where Chiefs' setup is initially at. Kind of worthy inside of the area, but luckily enough, they also have Ethan holding things down inside of open area, so they'll be able to maintain hatch control at least as of right now, unless BDS can take control of that later on.
30 seconds have already gone away from the round, and BDS is getting prepared to... No, they're not going to do this again, are they?
Absolutely they're going to
do this again. They're just going to ignore the upstairs hole and go directly into the site. It looks like 3 players will take server control. Digital is the only one down here right now able to stop it. The good news for him, as we take a look at his operator, is the fact that he is on the smoke. So we can deploy the Toxic Babes and delay this to some extent. But seeing as he is a lone player, very easily be overwhelmed if BDS just goes for the push outright. The thing is, though, I don't think they're going to do that. The upstairs presence can respond to this pretty much immediately should they attempt to do so. So Rafal sneaking his way in. There's the Osa shield as well to allow for the plant to go down. They're trying to bait out the Toxic Babe, but Digital's actually reading this very smart right now, waiting for him to fully commit to this one. Picks it up, and there we go. Finally, that first one has come out. And as well, the alert has been made that they are indeed attempting to push their way into the site. I don't think the Chiefs realize, though, the extent of this push, as we do have a full 3-player setup in line to do this, with a 4th supporting rotates from upstairs on top of blue.
That initial shield move there from Rafal was very worrisome. That's when Osa is at her most exposed, when she's inside that animation. All of her shoulders and everything else in between is right there for the taking. And fortunately enough for the Chiefs, they're not able to hit their mark, but now with 2 Osa shields set up, Rafal can continually try to plant here, and Chiefs don't really have anything to say about it at the current moment. It's another smoke out here. Rafal's going to take more damage. I do believe that impact came through to destroy that. They have 1 more on bounce, and they're going to need that in order to try and stop this plant, as Rafal has picked up his other Osa shield. So, more than likely going to try and put that in a very similar spot and see if he can get this plant down. He'll back it up just a little bit, but again, got to worry about those swings right here. Fortunately enough, they've got some solid overwatch. They know one's inside of open area. Rafal trying to hold space here, able to get the shots, and that's the beauty of these Osa shields. Case starting to go down. No more smokes in the pocket of Digital. They have to do something. They got rid of the impact, but a Nitro Cell will do too. 20 seconds remain, and now BDS, they've been equalized with. It's a 4 versus 4.
Chiefs fighting this to the very bitter end of it. BDS suddenly having a correct course here, but they have no angles to work with. Just going to force their way in through security. 1 player down, but at the same time, the trades are coming back in through the Chiefs. One of the members of BDS sits down on the ground, but they're going to be able to revive them with the Adrenal Surges. It's into a 3v3. They're forcing the plant. We have Renshiro right up against the fence here too, trying to allow the plant to go down, and it succeeds. A 2v2 lined up, but potentially a 2v1 as Digital, his only other teammate, Worthy, is sitting on the ground in the back of Gold Bars here. He'll go for the revive, but this is going to give BDS so much time to set up post plants. One of them already rotating up towards blue here to try and establish that, but no, Lems will stop short just at the doorway here. They're going to wait it out. They don't need to go for top-down control. They're just going to play this out from here, and we can see how low these players are. This is going to be such a tough clutch attempt. Lems, of course, a little bit low himself, so maybe a possibility to sneak off a kill there, but Worthy will begin to push himself out, takes care of that drone, removes some of the intel, but it won't matter. First attempt to get over top of the case is immediately smited by Shaiko, leaving just Digital alone here with about 20 HP to play out the clutch, and it won't happen. BDS take it inside of regulation. 7-4 is the final score. That will be a solid 3 points being added onto the counter for BDS inside of this group.
What an offensive side there from BDS. Quite aggressive time and time again, and it works out. Even though that looked like initially it was meant to be a rush, it was actually all just about securing server and playing off of the Osa shields, and it worked out quite handily. Chiefs simply did not have the answer, and also some very creative plays there from Rafal to get rid of the impacts that prevented them from furthering that round. Obviously, the Nitro Cell comes in a little bit later, but as we saw, BDS are worth the struggle here. They're going to push themselves forward, get past Chiefs, and take yet another game off of them.
And so BDS keeps their tournament hopes well alive here. While Astralis has been rocketing forward inside of this group, BDS is looking to try and secure still a safe position to get themselves into the playoffs. As for the Chiefs, though, things continue to struggle as they weren't able to pick up, I should say, any points yesterday, and so far that will remain the same here today. But they need to brace themselves, as I do believe they have another match coming up immediately after this, so we'll need to get them prepared for that. Once again, things continue to look fairly bleak at the moment for this squad.
Yes, indeed. And, Chiefs still have another day of play, and hopefully something gives inside of the group, but as of right now, it's looking very, very bleak for their chances to make it to our playoff stage, which would be very unfortunate. Again, like we were talking about during our little bit of an extensive break there for that technical pause, I really do like the Chiefs' play style. I think that they have a lot of really, really good things that they can continue to work on and really improve on as a team, and really be a force to be reckoned with out of APAC. I mean, there's a reason they're here. It's just those little tidbits that BDS were able to abuse to get this match over on them.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to a short break, and when we come back, we'll break this game down for you. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen here. Back to break down that riveting match we just saw between the Chiefs as well as BDS. BDS topping it out, especially after that extended technical pause we had. BDS really just taking full control of things. Prior to that, though, an incredibly close series between these two teams, and Chiefs giving us a real heart-stopping performance on their own attacking side. They're almost every single round executing at like the 15-second mark or less, really pushing it to the bitter end. But still, despite that, able to win out 3 of those rounds, and it's a pretty impressive play considering that.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of positive things for the Chiefs on that offensive side, especially inside of their early game and mid-game. They did a very good job of breaking down BDS's setups and trying to get some of those initial picks. It was down to that last minute where things started to slip away from them, whether it be BDS making some grandiose plays with some of the kills that they were able to find, or we saw from the Chiefs here, shutting things down and eventually just working their way onto site in very quick fashion. But the big issue is that the offense really wasn't hampered inside of the ban department here. It was a Monty and a Nook ban, and that's why when BDS got control of the offensive side, they made it look so dang easy. Only dropping 1 round to the Chiefs, running it up to a 7-4 scoreline.
Yeah, the Montagne ban, I think at the end of the day was a little bit questionable because we've already seen inside of other regions, they have no problem playing into that style, playing without those shields necessarily. So obviously BDS would have more likely had a backup plan. As we know, EU plays into shields pretty heavily, but it's by no means a necessity here. As we take a look at the stats, it's not...
Look at the opening kills and opening deaths. That'll tell you all you need to know about this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about it in the pregame, right? Chiefs have no problem getting the opening kill, have no problem throwing that aggression, but they just aren't really great at translating it right now. Either the player stays far too exposed after they get the kill and is immediately refragged, or just they falter some point later in the round and are not able to properly utilize the 5v4 advantage that they're given.
Exactly. They get the control and they just don't know what to do with it sometimes, and it's really, really punishing. I feel like, if this team was a little bit more decisive near the tail end of their rounds, they could find some very serious success, and I think that that's the one thing that they're more than likely going to take away from this event overall. This is 2 times that BDS have been able to edge them out. The last one a little bit closer, but this time BDS more than likely having a better understanding of the Chiefs' gameplay and able to pull a rabbit out of a hat. This is 7-4 here for them. It's BDS able to take the dub yet again.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for myself and Stokes for today. We're going to go to a bit of a longer break, and when we do come back, we'll have your next match ready to play here on the Bravo stream.